Karen Maas was born in Holland the year they started exploring for oil near her hometown. By the time she was in high school, they still hadn't found any. Then, in 1959, Exxon's Dutch affiliate and its partner hit it. Not oil, but gas. The biggest natural gas field and the largest single source of energy ever discovered in Europe. Karen probably couldn't care less about what she cooks with or heats her house with, so long as it does it well. But she might be surprised to learn that her neighborhood Groningen gas field also runs a steel mill in Belgium, a brewery in Germany, heats sidewalk cafes in France, and pays a good share of Holland's taxes. It's been good for us, good for Karen's hometown, and good for Europe. Exxon, we'd like you to know.
An official of the Cost of Living Council said today that Americans will begin paying more for food next week because the price freeze has been lifted. The official said price increases are likely to be most noticeable at first on pork, poultry, eggs, fresh fruits, and vegetables. One food that will not cost more next week is beef. There's still a ceiling on beef prices. That's making beef producers very unhappy and causing them to predict beef shortages.
This should have been the best time of the year for the farmers who fatten cattle for market. They were recovering from disastrous winter weather and hoping for higher prices under Phase 4. But because of the continued ceiling on the price of beef, the farmers can't get those higher prices while their costs go on rising. Some feeders say they can't hold out until September 12th, the day President Nixon says he'll lift the ceiling.
I've been a supporter of Nixon for many years. I thought he's done a good job, but he has certainly let us down on this deal here. And we're going to have a shortage. There's no ifs or ands about it. And I certainly can see why we should be singled out as a single industry and the price squeeze lifted on everybody but the beef.
The price squeeze has hit the beef packing industry hard, too. Hundreds of workers have been laid off in packing plants throughout Iowa. Plant owners are meeting this weekend to decide what to do. One major plant will put all its employees on a 2-week vacation. Another, Flavorland of Sioux City, has suggested an industry-wide shutdown to show the people what a real shortage would be like. The state government has warned President Nixon that shortages and perhaps worse problems are coming.
I think definitely possibility of black market developing, which would cost the consumer higher prices if they're going to have the supply, and at the same time even deplete more rapidly the supply that is available in the next 2 years.
Cattlemen say the continuing price ceiling will have after effects for years, causing some farms and packing companies to fail and leaving the rest confused and worried about future price controls. And they say the ultimate loser is the beef consumer. Peter Nolan, NBC News.
There already is a gasoline shortage, although it's not nearly as bad as it was a while ago. A former chairman of the Federal Power Commission now says one way to save gasoline would be for the federal government to force automakers to limit the size of their cars.
Heavier than usual grocery shopping crowds were reported today in some parts of the country. Worry about price increases and shortages apparently caused it. Reports from Atlanta to San Francisco indicate some stores already have increased prices or plan to do so early next week on a wide variety of foods, especially eggs, poultry, pork, fresh fruit, and vegetables. The Ohio Department of Agriculture predicted today that pork and poultry prices would jump 20% during the next 15 days alone. Beef prices remain the same because the price freeze lifted on all other foods is being kept on beef until September. Treasury Secretary George Shultz, the president's chief economic advisor, admitted today that this probably will cause beef shortages. One reason is cattlemen keeping beef off the market. Another is that some people are already hoarding beef before price controls on it go off. More about this from Jeff Williams in Chicago.
The end of price controls on all meats except beef was reflected in dramatic rises in meat sales. At the Alpine market, business was up 20%. Every day has been like Saturday, with housewives buying heavily. Pork is in particularly short supply. Prices jumped 15 to 25% overnight in many Chicago butcher shops. Ernie Kuehl, the Alpine owner, is not certain how long his meat supplies will last or how much he will receive in coming weeks. He's just selling as fast as possible.
Price hasn't been any factor. that they don't ask how much is it. They say, just give me this, give me that. They want it.
Do you think they are hoarding, anticipating some problems?
They are stocking up for sure. They're filling up their freezers as much as their freezers will hold. They're stocking up.
At another leading butcher shop, Otto Waggy says that in the past week he sold more beef to be hoarded in freezers than he normally would sell in several months. He's also concerned about running short on meat supplies. Typical of those buying heavily at Otto's is Mike Doyle. He spent $188 at a single crack, all on beef that he had put away in a locker.
It's the first time in my life, and I'm 73 years of age, that I bought a quarter of beef. I'm a weekly shopper. And my wife and I have never had a freezer in our life.
These butchers predict that stockpiling of meat, especially beef, will continue to increase. Severe hoarding could develop, they predict, by mid-August, before the price ceiling on beef is removed in September. Jeff Williams, CBS News, Chicago.
In Washington, federal mediators have been trying to settle a strike of Teamsters who walked out on the California canning industry Thursday. The chief federal mediator today said he hoped an agreement could be worked out by midnight. The strike came at a very inappropriate time for the canning industry, as Bill Walker explains.
Until the strike hit, good weather, record crops, and high prices had promised the best year in 2 decades for California's fruit and vegetable growers. Only 25% of the $300 million production here is sold fresh. The rest is canned. And the country's canning industry depends on California for 60% of its pears, 75% of the tomatoes, and more than 98% of its peaches. The Teamster walkout came just as harvest and processing of the big crops were building toward their peak, leaving growers with thousands of tons and millions of dollars in ripe fruits and vegetables and nothing to do with it. For the time being, growers are putting the peaches and pears in cold storage. But industry spokesmen say available storage facilities will run out early next week, and vine-ripened tomatoes necessary for canning can't be stored at all. Growers and canners say the strike has already cost the industry millions of dollars. But the greatest impact may be on the consumer. Industry sources say canners went into this season with the lowest inventories in 20 years. Canned food prices are almost certain to go higher, and if the strike doesn't end soon, some products could all but disappear from grocery shelves. Bill Walker, CBS News.